But for 1 second right now, if you thought anyone in the brokers, anyone in the underwriters is sitting there with bated breath waiting for the technologists in the company and the operations people to tell them what to write, that's not true.
Welcome to the Walk and Talk. My name's Ezra Richardson. I'm a principal consultant at Stellarman Consulting and joined today by Joe Brace. Joe, do you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
So, Joe Brace, Operations Director at the Lloyd's Market Association. We look after the Lloyd's Market and all the managing agents that make that one up.
Excellent. So we're just going to do a bit of a walk around the city, a bit of an impromptu interview. Joe has not been prepped with anything that we're going to discuss, so absolute fair warning that this might be a bit off the cuff. But I suppose my first question is, you've been in the market for near 20 years, would you say?
Yeah, coming up to 20 years. Joined in 2008 off the back of leaving banking. Probably a very good time with the crash happening at the time. Moved across to insurance. Probably the best move I ever made in my career.
Yeah, excellent. And I suppose, plenty has changed in that time. There's quite a lot that people are talking about now. I'm sure everyone would be shouting AI is the next big thing. But I suppose I'm quite interested in what is changing that the market isn't seeing.
So standards is really what's changing. We're all talking the same language. And I think what people forget about is the kind of back office standards that drive change. Often it's not the big glowy thing that makes everything better. It's actually the stuff in the background that suddenly aligns that enables you to do stuff. When you want a railway, it's not the fastest train that works, it's the tracks that they run on. So a lot of the time what you really see is people are taking these standards, they're applying them across the board, they're thinking about what else can we do with it. I'll use a really simple analogy. Think about Lego bricks, right? Knowing how far apart the studs are, how wide the brick is, all that stuff. Absolutely brilliant and vitally important. That's not the imaginative cool bit. What you then build, your kids sitting there building the fastest spaceship car in the world that ever works. That's the exciting bit. And that's the kind of thing that standards enable. And that's really why we're trying to push the connectivity side of things and really try and focus on the basics, if you like, to enable others to really push that innovation agenda. And it works for AI as well. You mentioned it. If you're going to deal with AI, why not deal with it as much as possible in a deterministic manner rather than a probabilistic manner? I don't need a probability that 2 times 2 is 4. I know 2 times 2 is 4.
If we're looking at the market at the moment, there seems to be a lot of people saying we're moving into a soft market. And with a soft market, of course, things seem to be a little bit looser, shall we say, as they're pushed through. But also investment seems to sort of be sidetracked with a lot of the insurers. So I suppose I'm just quite keen to get your view on, can people afford to put change to one side, given how fast things are changing at the moment?
Let's start with the obvious. Can you afford to stop change? No. All you're doing is saving up debt for another day. And I think that's really important that people, and they do, they understand it. Everyone knows there's a cycle. There are times when you have a little bit more in the pot to go, should we try some new stuff? I think what we're seeing at the moment is a real confluence of new things, AI, as well as a number of kind of hygiene factor type changes that people also need to make as well. So we're seeing a bit of the usual tussle for there's only £5 sack and there's £10 worth of potatoes. So how are you going to actually get the two to square off? On the softening cycle thing, I think we've got to remember across all the different classes, it's not uniform. We don't see the market turn as one. Gone are the days when it was 3 years, 3 years, 3 years. We're really seeing now is it's far more adaptive, and actually different classes of business carry different risks with it. Obviously, at the moment, we've got things like Iran that is playing havoc across the market. But, we're coping with it. We're representing our members. Our members are coping with this stuff. We're doing our best to make sure we push back against disinformation and often it's just where people have made the wrong assumptions about what insurance cover means or doesn't mean. And we're also seeing new products. We're rebaselining some of these things. Cyber's still relatively new. We're still looking at things like quantum. That's an interesting new one. We haven't really quite worked that out. Is quantum cryptography going to become a thing? And are we going to suddenly have hackable everything, or is it all going to be absolutely fine? We don't know. And the whole point about specialist insurance is we adapt. We've got specialists here. We've got people who work out what is the fair rate. And it's a great partnership between brokers and underwriters. This isn't just an underwriter deciding the price. There's also a broker who knows the market, and they bring that to us, and that expertise is really valued. And I think often the bit that sometimes we forget around this market is it is a cycle, but it's driven by a number of factors. The macroeconomic, obviously, but then also there's some price adjustments, there's some realignments, there's appetites for risk as well. We happen to be in a time at the moment where the Lloyd's returns are really good. So people want that, which means we've got a lot of capital in the market. Fantastic position to be in. But it means also that people are trying to write a lot of business as well. And I think you've seen it with the Lloyd's messages as well. Patrick Tierney and Rachel Turk have also mentioned several times about consistency, about being strong underwriting guidance, about maintaining firm discipline. And I couldn't agree more with all of these things. They're the right thing to do, regardless of which cycle the market's in as well. And it's about maintaining that strong underwriting discipline and really just sticking to your strengths. There's a lot of people out there who are developing books, who will be looking to take on new risks. Fantastic. But again, it's about having that portfolio. Right. And how do you balance that portfolio to align with your risk appetite, that you've agreed with your capital providers and all those kind of fun things. So, while we're in that, I'd say a softening market, it's not uniform, it's not reason for worry. But change is always on the agenda. The one thing you can't do is stop. Sure. Various different companies have different places. If they've just had an investment, they might be looking to modernize. They might be trying to drive a change agenda based around AI or data standards or 101 other pieces that might be there. Sometimes it's just the hygiene factors. Yeah. Sometimes you just need new ledger, and that has to be done. You can't make a mistake with those things. And of course, people are concerned about their own infrastructure. They want to keep it secure. They want to keep it safe. Operational resilience came in last year. We're still seeing some changes off the back of that. Really thinking about third-party risk management and what they do. So a lot to do. And I think that's really the thing is, you've got £10 to spend and you've got about £20 of things you want to spend it on. We have it in our personal lives, what's a want versus a need. I talk to my kids about it all the time. There's definitely different things they think they need than I do. But yeah, that's why we try and keep it as realistic as possible. And we're not there as the LMA and as Lloyd's as well. We're not there to tell people what their strategy is. We're there to enable the marketplace to actually look at different things. People will spot different gaps in different areas. They'll find different pricing points that they want to attract. So we'll let them exercise that right in the marketplace.
Well, we'll keep on walking. There's an interesting point that seems to be battered around, and there's a lot of fake news around, isn't there? But some of the headlines do catch, and I think one of them I saw was that brokers are basing their decisions on who to go with based on what that technology stack is like. And I suppose it's like everything. What is the path of least resistance? What's going to make their lives easier? But is there much truth to that?
I mean, simply put, no. Technology always has a path to play here, but we're a relationship market. We write the business that's right to write for the business. I know it sounds a bit obvious, but data standards, everything else, it helps. But these are the costs of doing business. The expense ratio is something that we look at, but it's not driven by technology.
Right.
This isn't driven by people saying, you're Microsoft, I'm Azure. We don't see those kind of things. What you do see is volumes. What you do see is where it's easier to do things. If you can remove these hurdles, it helps. It's not the decision point. Right. And really what we're trying to look to do with the market, and many players in the market look to do, is to reduce those costs, reduce those expenses, so they can move to a profit play. In a softening market, in a time when we're a bit more price sensitive, we do think about, how do I start bringing these down? But it's not tech that's driving that. There is an opportunity. There will be some more things around smart follow, getting the algorithmic underwriting going. If we can get people connected, we can start speeding this up. Right now, we have not got that level of automatic connection. We don't have that level of high volume, low cost. That's not what a specialist insurance market does. So people aren't making those decisions. Yes, it's a factor. But for 1 second right now, if you thought anyone in the brokers, anyone in the underwriters is sitting there with bated breath waiting for the technologists in the company and the operations people to tell them what to write, that's not true. Underwriters are looking at their risk appetites, they're looking at their business plans, they're looking at their forecasts, and they're really looking at what do we do to hit what we're trying to achieve,
Yeah.
while maintaining that discipline. So ops has a part to play. I don't know, it's a bit like if you're at home, you're not really thinking about which fridge you bought. You're thinking about what food you're going to buy to put in it. It's lovely that the fridge works. It's lovely that it's big enough, but you're not sitting there having an agonising decision about, well, I can't buy any food because I haven't got the right fridge.
Oh. That's very true. Although I did, there was sweat and tears over the fridge that I bought for my house. But you're absolutely right.
There's got to be a beer fridge. There's got to be a beer layer. That's it.
Yeah, well, tick. And I suppose, there's a lot that will be floated around what is good transformation, what is good technology. But I suppose it'd be nice to understand, what do you feel the market should be passionate about right now?
So, from a market point of view, I mean, everyone's got their own strategy. And that's the key bit for me, is it's not trying to fit what we think, what I think, what other people think to their own agenda. The reality is they're going to have their own strategy. They're going to be putting money into the places where they need to make the changes. Sometimes it's operational. Sometimes it's the hygiene factors. Other times it's the transformation piece. At the moment, we've got a real opportunity with things like AI. And I say things like AI because it's not a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
We've got to be thinking about, what are we going to do to understand the change that underpins the whole process? What are we going to do that really helps us understand what's the overarching thing we're trying to achieve? Where do we make the real impactful pieces to strategy? And I just think there's more to a successful transformation than we delivered what we said we'd do.
Yeah.
Did it empower the vision? Did it empower the long-term goals? Was it a good investment for a multi-year return on investment? I think all too often we go, right, system's live, job done. Change management doesn't stop at the system implementation. You've got to see the changes to the structure, the changes to the process outsourcing, or the actual structure of what you're trying to achieve. So I don't think we're here to tell people what to do, but it's more about, if you're going to do change, do it with intent. And I think that's really important. What are we trying to achieve? And then measure the damn thing. Because so many times we say, yeah, let's go do X. We get halfway through it and we go, oh yeah, but we changed our mind, it's now Y. Okay, that's fine. But have some intention to it.
Yeah.
Worried about stairs here.
Yeah, here we go, stairs. So it's a little bit slow. Yeah, it's definitely down to what problem do you solve, and it's taking that whole organisation on a journey, not just one set of people. Because there is I always look back to like my enterprise architecture roots. Not that I was an enterprise architect, but it's what is that enterprise-wide impact? Who does it touch? Why does it touch them? And what is the positive and the negative in outputs of whatever it is that you're doing? But I suppose what would be quite nice to hear is what are you passionate about? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
So my background's all change. I love change. What I really like is the results from that change, though. I love seeing people do something differently that really, really engages with them on an individual level. There's small things that you can do in a change, and it's removing that frustration. One of the best things you can do in change is to actually go and work with the people who are impacted by it. The amount of times I've seen things where a system's been replaced, but no one looked at the original to understand what was the problems with the original. The amount of times that you've seen things like something's been made quicker, but was it the thing that you didn't need to make quicker that added no value to the customer, whereas actually what they wanted was better quality? So it's twice as fast for us to make a mistake. Brilliant. Is that what we were aiming for? So I love change. I love trying to get there, but it's that collaborative change that I really like. Seeing the whole market change towards a standard. Now, turning an oil tanker, pick your analogy on this one. It is hard to do. But once you see it going there, you are moving a lot very quickly. And I think that's part of the thing that we really need to be focused on is what's the overall prize? What's the prize in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? We're 330 plus years old, right? We're not going away.
Yeah.
What we do need to do is to modernise and by understanding what our customers need, what we need. So taking everyone on that journey, setting a clear vision, that's stuff that really makes me happy. What are we trying to achieve? Why are we trying to achieve it? I think that's actually more important sometimes than the technical execution of it being perfect. You give me a statement of work, I deliver everything on that statement of work, but halfway through we forgot to check in, did the customer like it? There's a reason people are switching on to Agile and things like this, because they get to see the product halfway through and go, yeah, that print button, I didn't mean on that page. That's not what I meant at all. And you go, right, great, I'm glad we got the feedback now. I didn't just turn up and go, that's exactly what you wanted, because that's what you told me. Sometimes people don't know what they need. Henry Ford, let's remember he made that quote, didn't he? If I gave the customer what they wanted, they would have got a faster horse.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to think about innovation in a different way. But the best thing you can do is to do it with other people. It's to collaborate with these things. I always say about data standards, if you're trying to adopt them and apply them in your company, the thing you can't do is do that alone. You've got to look at your distribution networks, you've got to look at your vendors, your suppliers. You've got to be talking to everyone in that chain, back to your enterprise architecture contacts. You've got to understand who it touches and how it touches them, because if you don't change every part, well, great, you've changed your bit, and then everyone gets your form and then translates it back to French, because they go, I don't know why they keep submitting it in a different language.
Are you a fan of analogies?
I torture an analogy, as my whole team will tell you, on a regular basis. It's unfortunately something that's probably a little bit lampooned for me. I love it, but I just think it's the way to get it across to people.
Yeah.
Data standards, I'm really boring. I keep talking about 240 volts, 3-pin plugs, because that's the bit I'm interested in. That's the bit around the house there. What you build to plug into that's the exciting, cool innovation bit. But I'm interested in getting us all using the same thing so we can go there. So I do love an analogy. I will often murder them. I'll often cross them as well. So yeah, occasionally we'll be sitting there, being a brain scientist or a rocket surgeon, and I'll be like, oh no, wrong one, meant the other one.
Yeah, so they're so good. They are such a good way of getting a point across. And I was just going to, what you were saying then just remind me of one. So I did some videos like 6 or 7 years ago, and I always remember this one analogy, and I'm going to murder it. I'm definitely not going to deliver it as well, but it's always around the omelette. And you might have heard this one, but it's like everyone knows what they want. So everyone wants an omelette. But you might want a little bit of chorizo in it. You might want to put a bit of onion in there, and then some people might want mushrooms, but people don't like mushrooms. So it's how do you find that compromise? How do you find that balance and deliver an omelette that everyone wants?
We used to do this many years ago, and I came from a business analysis background, and one of my favourite tasks to train people how to be a business analyst was to write the process flow for making a cup of tea. Sounds really simple until you start going, right, boil the kettle. Right, did I need to put water in that? Oh yeah, right, you've got to fill it with water. Right, where's that? Where do I get it from? Okay, then you fill your cup. Well, I've got a cup, have I? Where did that magically appear from? How big's this cup? Oh, well, you've got to start writing this one down. Do I want sugar? Do I want milk? Do I put milk in first? No is the answer. Which order do I do this in? How long do I leave it in there? All of those personal preferences suddenly come to the fore, and you're sitting there going, wow, well, this was meant to be like a 3-box diagram, and now I'm sitting there with all these choices and decisions that all of us take for granted. We sit there and go, well, no, I know how you make a cup of tea. It's not hard. So it's how do we take that kind of complexity and then tie it together with the intention that makes it really, really simple? Because all of a sudden we've all got the context for how to make a cup of tea. That doesn't actually need a lot of communication. And the real trick to change management is to get people into that mindset where they then know what they're trying to achieve. They know the simple steps there, and you can turn those into configurable items that you give them control and power over. And the moment you do that, that process becomes really simple, and you go, right, let's make some working assumptions here. It's going to require a mug that's roughly this size, standard is X. It's going to need a tea bag in there. We've got PG Tips or whatever other brands are available. We're going to allow personalization. It's going to have these configurable elements in there. Don't care about that. That's going to be done after you've added the hot water. I just think the more you get into these kind of states, and again, love an analogy, but that analysis training really gets people into the right zone of, right, well, that was obvious. Now you apply that to business change, something that somebody does 3,000 times a day, and then you suddenly are going, well, wow, what are the assumptions that are underpinning this one? What is your experience of this one? We're going to see the same thing with training AI. When you first went through things like business process outsourcing, the first thing you did was write down the whole process. You wrote down all the vanilla cases, then you wrote down the edge cases, and then you gave people a manual that said, if this happens, go and do this, based on experience. AI is the same. It's not a magic bullet that's going to suddenly come in and understand all your problems. It needs training. It needs to know the context. So the more we can get into explaining how we do these things in a common language, the better. And change is all about that adoption, because we all know where we're going. We all know what a cup of tea looks like.
Well, yeah.
It's a hell of a lot easier than sitting there going, right, what's a kettle?
There's a very famous phrase about opinions, which I won't repeat.
Everyone's got one.
Everyone's got
house
one.
keys.
But I'm interested in what would you say is an unpopular opinion?
An unpopular opinion for me is often how we treat change. We see it as this horrible thing that's being done to us. And I think often you need to acknowledge that, but then you've also got to work out that we live through change on a daily basis. I'm old enough to remember when Google was invented. I'm old enough to remember not having a smartphone. Now these things are just taken as the norm, and that sets the expectation. So I think you've just got to sometimes lean into the fact that it will happen, and that you have to take people on the journey. But telling people they need to modernise is not as good as showing them why it could be a good thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear at the moment. We've talked about AI, we've touched on that today. I don't think you can have an AI strategy without a people strategy. I think you've got to work out, well, what is this going to do with my workforce? And I'm not talking about job losses, I'm talking about changing what we do. You know, when we went from typewriters to word processors to laptops, we communicate in a very different way, day in, day out. And why would it be any different with the other things we do? One of the great things about AI is it can broaden your role. So all of a sudden, I'm not an actuarial expert, but I can ask AI to give me the talking points, as if I was an actuary. Now, I'll still want to go and check that with an actuary. But what I didn't need to do was to turn around and kind of find an actuary before I could start the paper. I could have that conversation. It might be a legal expert. What are the kind of legal points around this one for Europe? What does DORA mean, and how might that apply here, the Digital Operational Resilience Act? It's broadening out what I can do by myself before I collaborate. Doesn't mean I shouldn't collaborate. That's a big distinction there. But it means I can come in and go, right, this is my start for 10. Yeah. I've always said, hell of a lot easier to edit than create. Creation is really hard. Ask anyone who's a creative person and who's making films, who's making music, and like that. Starting is the hardest part, and sometimes you just noodle. Yeah. Now, how do you do that in a professional environment? How do you do that with a change environment? How do you do that with 101 different ideas where you're going, well, all I know to do is to buy software as a service? Right, let's see if we can think about a different way of doing something. Is there another way of breaking that problem down? And I just think it's a way of changing that mindset. So the unpopular bit is you've got to bear with people. Yeah. Stop just hitting them over the head and telling them they've got to change. Just because you've made that leap and you've made that journey, which is sometimes your job, doesn't mean that you haven't got to be a little bit sympathetic and put on your kind of emotional shoes and just go, let me just put myself in there. So where is the fear coming from? And 9 times out of 10, it's completely rational. Yeah. And you look at it and go, yeah, I get it. I understand why you're there. But let me talk you through a different vision of the world. You know, your kids are going to have access to the internet on their phones. That was a terrifying thing. All of a sudden you go, oh, well, actually, I'm going to be able to call them and make sure they're safe. I'm going to be able to track them real time. We were talking as a marketplace around autonomous cars, autonomous vehicles. Now, if you wrote a business case that said, I'm going to make you £100 million, but I'm going to have to kill 3 people, you're probably going to say no to that business case. Well, I hope you would.
Oh, absolutely.
Equally, if you turn around and say, I'm going to make you £100 million and I'm going to reduce the road fatalities by 96%, because they currently range in the thousands, and we're going to reduce it to 3, well, now you've got my attention. Yeah, this sounds great. It's the same business case. It's the same facts. Right? People will get hit by these things, but it will reduce the overall fatalities, because generally it's better reactions on an autonomous vehicle. You haven't got substance abuse and things like that goes hand in hand, tiredness, multiple factors. And I just think if it's how you sometimes phrase the question and the problem to, well, what could better look like? Unpopular sometimes, but do you know what? Put your compassionate pants on, talk to people, understand the real fears, but don't dismiss them.
I'm hoping this will be a bit of a public platform. So one thing I'm quite keen to do is give you that public platform to talk about something that matters to you. Is there anything that's close to your heart that you want to share?
So putting family and friends aside for one moment, sorry guys. Professionally, for me, it is about modernisation, digitalisation, data standards across the market. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm here to enable more people to do more fun things. This is the Lego brick analogy, coming back again. I love an analogy. I'm here for us to say, well, look, here's all the Lego bricks. Here's all the cool stuff. What other Lego bricks do you want? How those are put together is the really interesting part. Those are our products, those are our services, those are the risks that we take on behalf of our customers. And sometimes that's the claim that helps a business get back up and running again. Now, I don't know about you, but that's quite a cool thing. Someone's had a horrible setback, but they can get back up and running and have another go because they've had insurance. They can take a risk that they couldn't have otherwise done. And I really like insurance. I came across from banking. There's a different ethos in insurance. We run a much more transparent figure in terms of how much we pay out versus how much we take in. You can see it in the results every single year with Lloyd's. And sometimes when we have a catastrophe year, hurricanes, things like that, we pay out more than we took in.
Yeah.
But we take that in our stride because it's about the long term. And I think that's the real piece I love about the Lloyd's market. And the bit I'm passionate about is the long term. This isn't about, we made profit year one. Brilliant. It's, well, hang on, how do we build a sustainable model? How do we come back and do this again? How do we treat everyone like adults and have those good conversations around how can we do things better, guys? I don't know about you, but that's what I want. I want to be constantly looking in the mirror and going, can I be a bit better?
Yeah.
None of us are perfect. None of us. And the market's exactly the same. We'll have ups and downs. We'll write good business, bad business. We'll misprice things. Maybe it should have been 10% higher because actually, the risk is bigger.
Yeah.
But the more we talk, the more we collaborate, the better we've got in terms of reacting to what our customers want. And our customers is a loaded word within the Lloyd's market. So my customers are the managing agents that make up the market. But ultimately, we've got the policyholders. These are the people. These are companies. These are massive multinationals in their own right who are offsetting their risk based on what they want. They trust a lot of what comes into this market. They've got a trusted relationship with the brokers. You can see Willis just over there. And we've got 57 managing agents that make up our market. You can syndicate risk. You can come up with something new and try something new. There's not many places in the world you can do that. So what am I passionate about? Sadly, insurance.
Well, I love it. It's a good thing to be passionate about. And you know that I'm pretty new to this world.
You're welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And that's exactly how it does feel, which is lovely. And obviously, I work for a group who do have vast experience, but the one of the things that does seem to be a hot topic and should be a hot topic is, well, actually for people that do want to get into insurance, then what does that route look like for them? And there's a lot of dismal news around about youth unemployment and everything else. But any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and there's some really clear guidance. If you look at the LMG, the London Market Group's London Matters report, they release it every couple of years. It's really insightful. It tells you a lot about what's happening in our marketplace, age demographics, things like this. But they also run London Insurance Life at the LMG. Please go and look it up. It's where we pull together all early careers for the Lloyd's market. Now, this can be brokers, underwriters. It's the whole lot. It's really, really useful. It's all about those entry-level roles. This isn't about hiring for 20 years plus marine underwriter. Yeah. This is about someone who wants to get into the market. So we've really centralised that with the LMG. They've done some great reports there. We're in danger of letting our workforce age out, like a lot of industries at the moment.
Yeah.
If you read the LMG London Matters report, it's a good read. A little bit depressing when it looks at our average age group. At the moment, we've got about, forgive me if I get these wrong, but it's about 24%, 18 to 30-year-olds in the market. That's about a quarter. Lovely. That's great. In the next 10 years, that's predicted to go down to 7%. Wow. Now, that's a lot of young talent that we're missing out on. That's a lot of future talent that's not being developed. That's a lot of people who aren't getting that first opportunity. So we really are thinking as a marketplace about how do we change that first job? Because it's not about doing one thing 100 times. Well, it's about, can you be involved in 10 things and maybe do it 10 times each? And maybe you're a bit more rounded. Maybe you've done some claims, some underwriting, some risk, some change. And I think we need to really think about what we want from people in terms of broadening out these horizons. So, yeah, it worries me, but I think we're already taking proactive steps to try and attract more people to the market. I bore my children about joining the market all the time. Not sure that's going to happen, but I'll keep trying. What we've also got to do is look at social mobility.
Yeah.
You asked me earlier about what am I passionate about. Social mobility is really a key thing for me. We've got to open up the market. We've got to make it so that if people come up here to do internships, they're not unpaid.
Yeah.
They've got to be something that people can pay for. If they're asked to be wearing a suit, because sometimes we do in the marketplace, then that's got to be compensated. If we're asking them to travel up here, that's got to be compensated. Have lunch in the city. You find me somewhere where it's not £10 generic for lunch. And that's a lot of money for someone who's trying to get their first ever job. You can't assume that they're just going to pick that up, or the parents will pick that up. And if you want talent from across multiple areas, you've got to make that investment. So we're really pushing as a marketplace that it shouldn't be the unpaid internships. It shouldn't be the kind of friend of a family come in here. We'd love them to come in here, but come in through London Insurance Life, come in through the formal routes. There's a rich array of jobs in here. And one thing I think we always forget, and I kind of reminded me, so a friend of mine said the other day, they went, any job that you can think of in the world is pretty much done in the insurance industry. So come and have a look. It's interesting. If you can't find it here, I'd be very surprised. Okay, fine, parachute instructor, maybe not. But on the whole, there'll be someone there who goes, well, actually, I write risks for parachute schools, and I can tell you a bit more about that. And I do some freelance consultancy work. You'd be surprised the links that there are. But alongside every other industry, there's thousands of people who work within here. There was a report in the Insurance Insider the other day. It was really useful. It talks about the magnetism of this building that we're standing under right now. 50% of companies related to this market are within 280 meters of the building. You can't find another place in the world where that central hub is really there for that bigger percentage of the marketplace within that kind of spitting distance of one place, which is why this has got such a good atmosphere, and we are a relationship-based business.
Well, that is all of my questions. So thank you so much for taking the time, Joey. It's been a pleasure. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed it, and yeah, by all means, keep watching.